I promise to keep it under 5 minutes.
Thank you.
As you said, my name is Mallory Nugent. I'm the Senior Policy Analyst at the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies, which is a New York City-based anti-poverty policy and advocacy nonprofit. As James laid out, we very much support raising the minimum wage. We feel that it will have a profound impact on reducing poverty for thousands of low-wage workers across the state. However, we must ensure that essential workers in the human services and Medicaid-funded direct care fields are included in a funded increase. Currently, over half this workforce is paid under $15 an hour. More than 500,000 human services and Medicaid-funded workers are the driving force behind services like child welfare, early childhood education, services for older adults and people with disabilities, home health care, and many other vital programs. Even with full-time hours, these wages do not meet the basic needs of these individuals and their families in most areas of the state. Many of these workers are often eligible for the same benefits as the clients they serve. 2/3 of this workforce has some level of college education, and close to half holds a bachelor's degree or higher. So this is a very educated workforce. About 82% of the statewide workforce are women, and about half are people of color. Many human services organizations contract with the state and local governments or receive Medicaid reimbursements to provide these essential services to communities all across the state. They are essentially an extension of the state workforce and should therefore be compensated as such. Unlike private sector workplaces, nonprofits can't raise the price of their services to compensate for a wage increase. An unfunded mandate to increase wages would curtail services, increase caseloads, and possibly force some nonprofits to close their doors. Exemptions or delayed implementation for nonprofits is also not the answer. Across the state, nonprofits are struggling to maintain highly skilled and dedicated workforces. Low wages and increasingly demanding jobs create difficulty in recruitment and retention across the state. FPWA encourages New York State to follow New York City's lead and implement a state-funded wage floor for all contracted human services and Medicaid-funded employees. To advocate for these resources, FPWA, the Human Services Council, and the Fiscal Policy Institute are co-leading the 15 in Funding campaign. The campaign is supported by a growing coalition of nonprofits across the state, with over 50 organizations currently signed on. In working with our coalition partners, FPWA has had the opportunity to hear directly from workers and nonprofit leaders doing essential human services work, and about what a funded increase would mean for them. This is a highly skilled, highly committed workforce. Hundreds of thousands of vital workers in New York shouldn't have to make difficult choices every day about caring about the well-being of their families or the job that they're passionate about. Nonprofit leaders also strongly support a wage increase and the impacts that the increase would have on their workers, clients, and organizations. They understand that an increased wage would mean a more productive workforce and less turnover, which in turn impacts the clients that the organizations serve. It's critical that the state invest the needed resources into the sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
The next speaker is David Cohen, Political Coordinator for SEIU 32BJ. Is David here? And following David would be AARP, David McNally, Director of Government Relations, so if you could be in the queue. And following AARP is Citizen Action of New York, Blue Carricker, Upstate Organizer, Paid Family Leave. So if we could be ready to go. Not here? Is David Cohen here?
I'm David McNally.
Okay, so no one from SEIU 32BJ? Okay, we'll take them off the list. So AARP, David McNally. Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
So let.
I'll give this a try.
Okay, again, let's try to keep it under 5.
Good evening, Senator Young, Assemblyman Farrell, and members of the committee. My name is David McNally. I'm the Manager of Government Affairs for AARP New York. We have 2.6 million members here in New York. I would like to submit the following testimony about ARP's views on the need to pass paid family leave and also establish a state-facilitated retirement savings program. First, the paid family leave. I'd like to thank the Assembly for passing the paid family leave bill sponsored by Assemblywoman Nolan today. ARP believes this bill is the roadmap to a final paid family leave policy in New York State. As you know, the governor's proposed a paid family leave insurance program in his executive budget, and we believe that's an excellent start to discussions on the need to pass this program in a final state budget. ARP supports the governor's call for 12 weeks of leave to care for a new child or seriously ill family member, providing job protection through the person's leave, and for the insurance to cover all private sector workers, no matter the size of the business. However, ARP believes the wage replacement for the low-income workers needs to be more substantial than what is proposed in the executive budget. ARP believes that too low of a wage benefit would not assist the millions of low-income workers who are living from paycheck to paycheck. The bill put forward by Assemblywoman Nolan, offering a wage replacement of 2/3 for low-income workers, should be seriously looked at during negotiations, and we support it. With that said, there have been recent reports that the governor will change his wage replacement to language to mirror Assemblywoman Nolan and Senator Adabo's bill and include a 2/3 wage replacement. The issue of family caregiving is both timeless and nonpartisan. Most of us have been or will be a family caregiver or will need the help of a loved one to live independently. Family caregivers are the backbone of New York's long-term care system. They are the first line of assistance for most people, helping to make it possible for older adults and people with disabilities to remain at home and out of costly, taxpayer-funded institutions like nursing homes. Family care is extremely beneficial for the person in need, but when a family caregiver has a paid job, his or her caregiving responsibilities inevitably require short periods of time off from work. Often, employees must make work-related adjustments to accommodate the needs of the person who is ill and needs care. Working caregivers often must divert attention away from their jobs to tend to caregiving responsibilities. Furthermore, working caregivers have varying leave needs, with some caregivers supported by a block of time off to care for a terminally ill family member, while others may only need sporadic time off to tend to day-to-day caregiving responsibilities. According to an ARP report, in 2013, New York family caregivers provided 2.4 billion hours of unpaid care to their parents, spouses, and loved ones, valued at $31.3 billion annually. They help with bathing, dressing, transportation, shopping, meals, complex medical tasks, financial assistance, and much more. In addition, another ARP report says that the typical U.S. caregiver is a 49-year-old woman who works outside the home and spends nearly 20 hours per week, the equivalent of another part-time job, providing unpaid care to her mother for about 5 years. Also from this report, we know the need to balance work and family across the generations is growing for families and for employers in the modern workplace. In many cases, these family members don't even identify themselves formally as caregivers. They are sons, daughters, husbands, wives, and grandchildren. Most undertake caregiving willingly, and many find it a source of deep satisfaction. However, family caregivers face huge responsibilities in caregiving in today's economic climate. We know that a vast majority of family caregivers have worked at a paying job at some point during their caregiving experience, and most are currently employed, either full-time or part-time, setting up a stressful juggling act between work, their caregiving role, and other family responsibilities. And when work requirements conflict with family obligations, some employed caregivers have to make difficult decisions that can lead to lost wages and missed opportunities. I've provided you my full testimony, but I would feel inadequate if I didn't first close by mentioning our extremely important proposal that has been adopted in the Assembly and the Senate. They've introduced legislation, both Senator Savino and Assemblyman Rodriguez, to create workplace savings plans. Over half of the people in private sector in New York State have no way to save in the workplace, and this would create a program to do that.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, Senator Martins.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Thank you very much. On the paid family leave issue, are you familiar with the various iterations of family leave around the United States, California, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and are there any elements of those programs as they have been implemented in those states that AARP find to be helpful, or guides to perhaps models that we can use here in New York State?
Well, the California proposal, I know some research has shown that the benefit is low, and therefore a lot of people don't take advantage of it. So that kind of reinforces for us the need to make sure the benefit is something that will actually help people. The
California benefit actually gives up to about $1,000 a week, and it's significantly, it gives up to $1,000 a week, the California benefit. So I would think that, if anything, it's a much more generous model than that which I've seen from other places. But we'll follow up as well.
Yeah, that's not my understanding of the California bill. Luckily, I'm here for New York and not California.
But no, but I'm just looking,
follow up.
We are looking at different models, and certainly we're advocating for different programs. Paid family leave is a broad discussion. And so I was hoping to get your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, from Citizen Action of New York, Blue Carricker, Upstate Organizer, Paid Family Leave. Following that individual, we have the New York Paid Leave Campaign, Nancy Rankin, Vice President, and Sherry Lewan. You could be ready. Sherry will come down with me. Nancy's gone. Okay, very good. Sherry is co-president of A Better Balance. So Citizen Action, who are you with? I'm sorry.
I'm with Citizen Action. I'm Blue Carricker with Citizen Action of New York.
Very good.
Okay.
And then no one from the paid, Sherry's from the paid family.
Yes.
Got it. All right.
Okay.
Here we go.
We all set?
Thank you very much.
Should I start? Is that okay?
Yeah,
I tag team.
If that's all right with you, can we let Sherry start?
Sure.
And I'll follow up.
Yeah, we're a team. It's fine. My name is Sherry Lewan. I am co-president and co-founder of A Better Balance, which is a legal advocacy organization. And our mission is to fight for policies that protect American workers from having to choose between caring for their families and maintaining their economic security. To that end, we've been working to enact paid family leave in states around the country. We've been drafting those laws, and here in New York, we have been working with a large coalition made up of labor allies, women's groups, Citizen Action, social service agencies, and organizations like AARP and the YWCA, and I'm really delighted they were here today. We also run a legal clinic, and every day we hear heartbreaking stories of financial hardship as workers struggle to fill the gap in their income when they have to take care of a new baby or care for a dying parent. I want to thank the committee for the opportunity to testify, and I also want to thank our sponsors in the Assembly and in the Senate and all of the senators and Assembly members who have really taken on this issue and really cared about it. So thank you. Thank you, Senator Marks. We also especially want to thank the governor for making paid family leave a part of his budget proposal. And we're here to testify in support of a strong paid family leave bill as part of this year's budget. First, I just want to emphasize the desperate need for families in this state for paid family leave. You've heard from some people just before, ARP and the YW on this. But the demographics of the workforce have changed over the last 2 decades, and women are now half the workers in this state and in this country. And yet workplace protections have not changed. And most importantly, we need to allow workers to take paid leave to care for a new child or a seriously ill family member. U.S. is only one of 2 nations, I'm sure you've heard this, in the entire world that doesn't provide any paid maternity leave for new mothers, and it's one of the only developed countries that doesn't have any kind of paid family leave. This is now changing all over the country as new paid family leave laws are being introduced, and we've been helping to write them. It's already changed in California, New Jersey, and Rhode Island, where paid family leave laws are already in effect and have been successful. And it's time for that change to happen in New York. The governor's proposal in this budget is a win-win for everyone, for workers, businesses, children, elders, and the economy. It provides a simple add-on to our already existing TDI program to cover 12 weeks of leave when there's a new child in the family or a need to care for a seriously ill family member. I just want to talk for a minute about how it's really a win for business, because it really is. And there's a lot of misinformation out there about the effect on business, especially small business. First, the paid family leave part of this bill, which is the only thing that is in the budget right now, does not cost business anything. It's an insurance program, and the premiums are paid entirely by workers. So nothing comes out of the pockets of business to pay for this program in either the Assembly bill or the governor's proposal in terms of paid family leave. And our estimate of the cost to workers is very small, about $1 a week, which workers are willing to pay, according to the surveys that we've done, and Blue will mention that later. Second, as I think was mentioned, small businesses are among the most important beneficiaries of an employee-funded state-paid family leave program because small businesses are often like families. And we've spoken to numerous small employers over the years who wish they could provide pay for their workers when they need time off to care for a new child or seriously ill parent. They're happy to give them the time, but they can't afford to pay them. Unlike many larger businesses that can afford to provide paid family leave out of their pockets, many small businesses simply can't do it. And therefore, paid family leave will allow small business owners to offer their workers this benefit in the same way that larger businesses do. And it will truly level the playing field, as we see with this generation of workers. Paid family leave and the ability to take leave for their families is very important to them, and it is a real consideration in taking a job. I also want to speak just quickly in support of some of the key features of the governor's proposals that are essential in any paid family leave program, just to bolster all of you and not compromising on any of them. The governor's proposal, as well as the Assembly bill, provide up to 12 weeks of leave, contingent on the need for it. I think people have mentioned before, mostly leaves are not taken in the full amount. The people who take them in the full amount are new mothers, most usually. And most countries in the world provide 6 months or more of paid family leave. So 12 weeks is really a minimal amount that's needed. And it makes sense because the constant care that an infant needs, the lack of child care facilities for very small children, and the expense of child care for very, very small infants, and the importance of breastfeeding. And we'd also like to just very, very much emphasize that job protection is a factor that really needs to be in this bill as well. Without job protection, even if workers have access to wages, they're not going to risk their job to take it. They're not going to risk their job to take the benefit that they paid for. We really need to make sure that people can take this benefit, especially since they are paying for it.
Okay, we're over the 5 minutes.
And just
so.
yeah, I'll let Blue come on. But again, thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of this very diverse coalition supporting this proposal. We really hope to see this in the budget in 2016.
Thank you very much. Blue?
Yes. Okay. I'm the upstate organizer for the Paid Family Leave campaign. That means since 2014, I have traveled across the state from the Hudson Valley through the Capital Region up to the North Country to Rochester and Buffalo, talking to families, talking to organizations, talking to small businesses, and finding out how they feel about that. Since I started, more than 80 organizations have signed on from around the state. I've logged time with 150 small business owners, and I know how many people want this. I also am a mother who, when my first child was born too many years ago, had to give my child up to a stranger at 8 weeks, and 16 years later, when he was a high school student and had cancer, I had to literally run back and forth from Lark Street to Albany Medical Center during lunch and immediately after work to be with him. And in between, he was there by himself, which never should have happened. But that's what happens when you don't have enough money and you have to work to pay the bills. I'm here particularly today to represent a woman named Sally Harone, who drove here today from Buffalo with her 6-month-old baby and could not stay to speak because she had to drive back home and be at work tomorrow. And she represents many of the families that I talk to. So let me just read her testimony. Her daughter's name, Adira. I loved being pregnant with Adira. I prepared myself well for a normal pregnancy and a peaceful birth. I ate healthy, exercised, anticipated becoming a mother with excitement and joy. My small workplace offered no paid maternity leave, and as a single working mom, I planned and saved carefully for a 6-week maternity leave. All of that preparation and planning went flying out the window when I went into preterm labor in July. After 9 days of bed rest, Adira was born by cesarean birth, 1 day shy of 29 weeks. She weighed 2 pounds and 2 ounces. For a mom recovering from a cesarean, New York State Disability currently provides 8 weeks of leave at a meager weight. I returned to work after only 5 weeks, with Adira still in the NICU. I ran between home, work, and hospital each day, still recovering physically and emotionally. No one would argue that this was a good option, but I knew she would need me more after she came home, and that during that time I would bringing in no income at all. So I had to work then. Working with her in the hospital seemed like the least bad of my limited options. Although this experience was difficult, I recognize also how lucky we were. Aside from a few minor routine preemie issues, Adira was and is a mighty little person, and she is. I'm sorry you didn't get to meet her. I also healed well. I lived very close to the hospital. I had overwhelming support from friends and family. Although my savings were meager, I was not living exactly paycheck to paycheck. We desperately need paid family leave now. Working with new families, I see how the system is inadequate in the best of circumstances. But for NICU families, we're forced into making unbearable choices. The consequences for us are devastating. Parents need to be able to focus on advocating for their children, on establishing a breastfeeding relationship if they're willing and able. And when the baby comes home, they need a significant amount of time for establishing a strong, loving bond. For so many, for the families most at risk of a NICU stay, this is unattainable without paid leave at a level on which they can actually survive. Caring for your baby should not be a privilege. It should be a right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both very much.
Next, from the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, I believe we have Peter Cook, Dan Morrissey, and Louis Cortez.
Bye. Be safe. Good luck.
Thank you. Did I get your names right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
pretty much.
okay.
I can clarify a couple things.
Sure.
Fine. So my name is Peter Cook, and I'm the executive director of the New York State Council of Churches, and we partner with Make the Road New York Communities of Change, Citizens Action, and others to do many things, but of course to advocate for a living wage.
So you're presenting on behalf of all of those groups tonight?
Yes.
Thank you.
For the New York State Council of Churches, we represent 7,000 Protestant churches across New York. Maybe another way to put it is we represent the religious equivalent of about 7,000 small businesses in every town in the state, urban, rural, suburban, upstate, and downstate. And as local churches, we have budgets to balance, heat bills to pay, buildings to take care of, and of course, workers to pay. And like businesses, we are not immune from the financial pressures which go with meeting payrolls. And so we know that our strength and vitality, however, is rooted deeply in doing justice and paying employees a fair wage. And so we really feel that trying to address the question of poverty through a structural approach, not just through charity, is what really makes sense in terms of offering hope to workers and our parishioners across the state. And so it's in that spirit that I'd like to read the words of a couple of workers who had really wanted to be here today to speak but could not, and I wanted to read their testimony. The first comes to us from Lennox James, who is a part-time UPS worker, Teamster Local 804. He would say, "Good afternoon, my name is Lennox James. I'm a father of 4 and a very hard worker. I've been working as a part-timer for UPS for the past 7 years. A lot of people hear UPS and think he must be all right, but the reality couldn't be farther from that. Although UPS made $4 billion in profits last year alone, I spent my first 7 years with UPS making less than $15, which means I was making a poverty wage. I've always struggled to make ends meet as a UPS worker, but the most difficult moment came when I separated from my wife. Trying to support 4 kids on my own on anything less than $15 forced me to have to live in a homeless shelter for 6 months and depend on food pantries to sustain myself. I urge you to do the right thing here. All workers in New York State need a $15 minimum wage now and not later. Thank you." Another letter comes to us from Berta Chacon, who's a member of the New York Communities for Change. She said, "I immigrated from El Salvador about 8 years ago. I came to this country full of dreams, seeking a better life for my family. I thought that by working hard I could get ahead, but this isn't the case. Since I arrived to Brooklyn, I've always worked at a beauty salon. I work 11 to 13 hours a day and make $50 a day, working 6 days a week. When it's a good week, I make $300 with this salary, and I have to make miracles to pay $1,000 in rent, transportation, bills, and food every month. I also send $200 to my family in El Salvador. Every month, if I don't have any extra expenses and I have work, I'm left with $150 a month to cover any other personal costs. What would I do with $150 in case of an emergency?" she asks. "Workers like me do not have the luxury of getting sick or even to satisfy our hunger. With such low wages, I have to face difficult decisions every day, things that you all probably don't even have to think about." So she calls for a $15 an hour wage, and there's more testimony here, but I know we're on time. So.
Thank you.
And these have all been submitted for you all. Good evening, chair people and members. I want to thank you for all staying here through the day with us. My name is Daniel Morrissey, and I work as a community organizer with Citizen Action of New York. I'm here to represent a campaign of more than 100 organizations who fully support Governor Cuomo's proposal to increase the minimum wage gradually over the coming years. Personally, I'd prefer if the proposal included funding for NGOs and a procurement plan for public institutions to purchase New York agricultural products and value-added goods. I'm also a member of the board of directors of Honest Weight Food Co-op here in Albany, where we support hundreds of local producers and makers. As the Personnel Committee chairperson in this 12,000-member organization, I've committed to propose an increase in our starting wage and paid family leave benefits for our over 200 employees in order to lead the way as the legislature considers these common sense strategies to create thriving communities all across the state. There were 250 workers here earlier, as a few people have referenced, some of whom are planning to offer testimony in person, and they took time off work today and were dismayed to find out that the hearing was postponed. So unfortunately, they couldn't stay so late, and they had to go home for work tomorrow. I'm going to read the testimony from one or two of the workers, depending on how long this one takes. He would have said, "My name is Rigoberto Quintero. I am part of the New York City car wash campaign. I immigrated from Honduras about 10 years ago in search for a better life for my family. Currently, I work at SLS Car Wash in East New York. I've been working there for about 2 years. I have to work 2 jobs to support my family and pay the bills. Currently, I am working a part-time job at SLS Car Wash and a full-time job in construction. After working a 10-hour shift in construction, I only have about an hour to eat and then off to my graveyard shift at the car wash. My wife was recently laid off from her job as laundry attendant. My wife and I have 4 children back in Honduras. They depend on me to pay for school, food, rent, and all other basic expenses. 2 of my daughters are enrolled in college and rely on my financial support to afford the tuition. My 2 younger sons, who are still too young to work, are completely dependent on me to provide for them. I send back home $400 monthly to cover my family expenses. At this point, I cannot pay my rent or utilities on time. Sometimes I have to make the difficult choice of putting food on the table or paying my gas bill. My current income is not enough for me to provide the basic necessities for my family. I have to support 2 households, and with the wages I make, working 2 jobs is just not enough. Right now, I am making $80 per day working in construction, which is very laborious work. Due to the lack of work and weather conditions, I sometimes work only 3 to 4 days. Additionally, due to the distance between my home and jobs, I spend approximately $165 commuting back and forth. Having the availability to make $15 an hour, I believe that would have been, having the ability to make $15 an hour will completely change the life of my family. This will mean that I don't have to choose between paying my bills or buying food for them. Also, this will allow me to send my children back in Honduras a little extra cash for them to afford health care. I will be able to move to an apartment where my son will have his own room, and my dream one day is to work a single job where I can make enough money to provide for my family, but most importantly, to spend time with them. This is why making $15 an hour is so important for me." With a minute and a half left, I'm going to try to get through this one. This is from the Long Island Progressive Coalition, from Ethel Roller. "I have worked at a locally owned hardware store on Long Island for the past 18 years. When I was first hired at the hardware store, I worked as a cashier and quickly worked my way up to front-end manager. I love working with the public. I know all of our customers. I have a wonderful rapport with them. I'm like the mayor of the hardware store. My manager will come to me and say, 'Ethel, what is the name of that customer that came in?' When you work somewhere for 18 years, you develop relationships with the people who come into the store. I know whose wife is sick. I know who their kids are. They joke with me that if I were ever to leave, to let them know because they would follow to wherever I ended up next. In 2013, when I turned 65, my manager called me into his office. At the time, I was working 50 hours per week, which is what is considered full-time, at $15 per hour. He told me that he was cutting my pay to $13 and cutting my hours back. Now I can only work 33 hours per week. He told me that the reason was that the business had to make cuts. But at the same time he cut my pay, he increased the pay and increased the hours of younger workers in the store. You have to work 50 hours per week at the store in order to get medical coverage. When my hours and my pay got cut, I lost my medical, vacation, and sick time. I was doing okay on $15 per hour at 50 hours each week. I could make it to work, but $13 at 33 hours is not enough. The mortgage on my house is $1,000 per month. Because my pay and hours were cut, I almost lost my home." I'll leave out the last paragraph, but I'm sure you can understand where that's going.
Thank you.
My name is Luis Cortez. I'm an organizer and Citizen Action, and I'm going to read 2 testimonies for 2 hard workers from New York City. The first testimony is Ivasia Sanford, is a member of the Retail Action Project. "Hello, my name is Ivasia Sanford, and I'm 22 years old. I have worked at Old Navy and Gateway from Brooklyn for 4 months. I'm here to testify in support of raising the minimum wage for $15 per hour. I was first hired as a seasonal employee in the fall, earning $9.50, but was kept on often the holidays and at the same rate of pay. I was forced to work on Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and the Saturday follow for 10 hours each day and with no additional incentive to leave my family and work those days. I was scheduled for back-to-back shifts, something we call cloppings, which means leaving the store after 11 p.m. to run and catch the last bus home, and then walking up early the next morning to open the store. When I was first hired, I was working 25 to 30 hours a week, but shortly after the holidays, my hours dropped down to 10 hours a week and would only receive my schedule 2 days in advance. It's frustrating, complicated, and never-ending battle as a single mother working in the retail industry. In addition to the issues I mentioned, the pay is nowhere near enough to cover everything my son needs, so I have had to depend on government assistance for basic needs like food and diapers. Before considering retail, I worked in food service, and really, it's all the same. Low pay, no hours, overworked, and understaffed. I thought that if I work in retail, I would be different and that I have a greater chance of growing with the company, but my experience has been that the managers have favorites who they consider before other hard-worker employees such as myself, which can be very discouraging. The company has high expectation of employees but does not have consideration for their lives outside of work and has created little space for advancement or rises. Raising the minimum wage to $15 will be helpful to me because not only am I a single mother, I'm also still living under my mother's roof, and with 15, I could actually save money to move into my own place. I'm overjoyed at the idea of my son having his own space to grow and the potential of him to have a chance at a healthy upbringing with access to more opportunities while he's still young. Being able to end my dependence on government assistance would definitely be a boost to my self-esteem, and knowing that I could work hard to support the both of us in meeting our daily needs without having to worry about paying a bill or skipping a meal just to make ends meet makes me want to fight every day for this increase in the minimum wage. I'm here to speak on behalf of all struggling worker parents in the retail sector who need a 15 minimum wage to survive and make ends meet. We are counting on you to make it a reality this year. Thank you for your time. And the next worker, she's Cristina Molina. Good evening. I thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Cristina Molina, and I'm a member of Make the Road New York. I believe in this country for more than 23 years. Like many of immigrants, I arrived here with many dreams. My first dream was to improve to the life of my 4 children and my family in Mexico, but I found that wages we earn here are too low. I worked sewing clothing and earned the minimum wage. My rent alone living in Woodside, Queens, is $1,800 a month. This is in addition to all the other bills and expenses I have to pay. Therefore, I have to work 2 jobs just to try to cover basic expenses. I also work cleaning houses, back-breaking work where I spend most of the day on my knees. Still, I find myself coming up short. I'm not able to buy all the things my children need, and this is very difficult as a mother. The truth is, it is impossible to get ahead in such an expensive city on my wages. Raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour for me is an issue of survival. $15 an hour would mean there might be enough food in my house at night. As working people, we deserve a dignified and fair wage. We need $15 an hour in order to live, in order to create a better life for our children. That is why I'm asking our state representative to pass a 15 minimum wage this year. It's the right thing to do for worker people, for families, and for our state. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So I understand you're also representing the Long Island Progressive Coalition with this group. You read a letter from them. So we'll take that as a yes. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone here from United Neighborhood Homes? Houses? Okay, so then that concludes the joint budget hearing regarding workforce development. We'd like to thank everyone for staying so long tonight and for participating, and thank you and have a good night.